Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual. How are my peeps doing? I trust everybody's okay. I just fired up the chat on Substack, so I don't know who's on Substack yet. Of course, I missed first couple dozen. Please go ahead and if you want me to call you out, put your city and state. Let me hear your city and state. On my other chat, that fills it up. We got Patrick Magner. Missed you yesterday, Brother Magner, from Houston, Texas. We also have Michael Rudnin from Brooklyn. He says, chat's empty today. Yes, I don't know. Where's everybody? What's going on? More will come. Bruce Pollard, I'm here in Kingwood. Hey, Bruce, how you doing, buddy? Michael, I am pretty sure they'll be coming in a minute. I'm pretty sure they'll be coming in a minute, my brother. Anyway, let's see. We got a lot to cover today. Susan Rose, welcome aboard. We've got a lot to cover today, and let me go ahead and start loading my videos for today. I got me a fairly long one that I'm going to have to put out. It's about our debt. That is a very important one based on some stuff that I was researching last night for my book as well, of course. But I don't know if it's going to make it into this particular book, but we'll see. We'll see. PDR files, there you are. I got my Minnesota outrage, Minneapolis there, and how Republicans blew up the debt and put the dollar. Let's see if that's the one. I think those are the three videos that I've got. Perfecto mundo. Let's go ahead and set a few things up. Welcome aboard, Joanne. Hi, Egbert. I've never caught you in the afternoon. Good to see you. How you doing, Joan? Great. Or Joan. Why am I saying Joan? Joan. How you doing, Joan? And Joe from Los Angeles, California is in with us as well. Who else is in the house? Michelle Oronato from Houston, Texas. Bruce says it's 50 degrees at noon, half that at midnight. Yeah, that's a 25-degree drop. A 25-degree drop. Okay, let's see which is the first one that I'm going to show. There's one that I was supposed to show this morning on KPFT that I missed. Welcome aboard, Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for being here. And Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. Thank you for being here. Let me continue to get these things, get the right channel in. You know, I'm always late. What can I say? I get these videos completed and processed just before the show because, you know, in case something fresh occurs, yo quiero que esté ahí. Okay, I got that one. I'm missing one. There's the one I'm missing. Okay, let's see. Joan says, thank you for correcting yourself. Hey, I didn't want to look, if there's one thing I know is if I get a name wrong, correct it before you guys have to correct me. Carolyn is in Minneapolis. Carolyn, what part of Minneapolis? Have you seen any of the protests? Would you like to call in and tell us a little bit about it? I would love that if you have the wherewithal to do so. You don't have to. No pressure on you. But in case, 281-823-7747. I would love a little, tell me about the feeling in the city now that the president is given a quote unquote easing. I don't believe it. Let me just tell you this. I do not believe it. I think it's going to continue. I think he'll just not be in Minneapolis, but I think he intends to continue with his evil ways. Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia, welcome aboard. Michael says, I'm switching to phone, listening. Okay, no problem, my brother. Yvette Avery Herod is in the house from Atlanta, Georgia, as well as Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas. Thank you guys for all being here. All right. I'm going to play the first video. This one has to do with a Republican that was running for governor. And because of what's going on, he has decided to leave. So let me go ahead and play that one. Well, let me see which one I'm going to play first. Let's see which one I'm going to play first. Yeah, I think I'll play that one first. Let's go ahead and do that. Then we'll take it on the other side. If you really want to know the reason why Donald Trump is seeming to do an about face, let me be clear here. This isn't a real about face. Donald Trump doesn't do that. This is all a facade, but he wants to give the facade that he is actually backing off from the criminality, from the murder that his ICE people are doing. Because remember, this is his secret police that he intends to use during the elections to intimidate people into not voting. This is the biggest voter suppression scheme that I really hope people understand what's going on here. But check this out. Here is this Republican in Minnesota who was running for governor, and he decided, I am out. I can't take seeing what Donald Trump is doing. So in as much as Donald Trump is probably creating a facade in what he's doing to get out of Minnesota or to tone things down, he may actually realize that in reality, he cannot just make it a facade. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Republican candidate for Minnesota Governor Chris Maddow just announced that he is ending his campaign. Here's why.
Today, I announced the end of my campaign. I have two primary reasons for this decision. Number one, I cannot support the National Republican's stated retribution on the citizens of our state, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so. I support the originally stated goals of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement's Operation Metro Surge in locating and deporting the worst of the worst from our state. And I've seen many examples of ICE arresting non-U.S. citizens in Minnesota convicted of serious crimes, including murder, rape, and child sexual assault. No reasonable person should want these people here, and I am glad that they are gone. But Operation Metro Surge has expanded far beyond its stated focus on true public safety threats. United States citizens, particularly those of color, live in fear. United States citizens are carrying papers to prove their citizenship. That's wrong. ICE has authorized its agents to raid homes using a civil warrant that need only be signed by a Border Patrol agent. That's unconstitutional and it's wrong. Weaponizing criminal investigations against political opponents is unconstitutional, regardless of who is in power. Republicans and Democrats alike have engaged in this misconduct, and both must be held to the same standard. They need to do better.
The second reason Maddow gave for dropping out was that he says national Republicans have made it impossible for a Republican to win in Minnesota. And again, just to underscore this, he's not a fair weather immigration guy, this Republican. He is a guy who offered legal counsel to the officer who shot Renee Good. So it's notable that he's dropping out over this.
So yes, when a MAGA guy, a right winger, comes out and said, this is too much for me, we've been telling people for a long time. A lot of people, when I go ahead and visit these protests, and a lot of time it is many times it is older women or sometimes younger women, sometimes a few guys here and there. And one of the things that they would always say is, I hope this makes a difference. And I would kind of inside, I would be boiling because I don't want to hear the word hope. I'm not a hope and change guy. I'm a change guy. I'm a guy that says we make things happen. So, but I would, again, center myself and nicely say to them, this is not about hope. What you're doing is making a difference. In the case of what we all did around the country, I mean, this isn't just Minnesota being successful in sort of turning the president. This is that the president saw the actions in Minnesota, but he saw the actions in Texas. He saw the actions in Rhode Island. He saw the actions in D.C. He saw the actions in Mississippi. He saw the actions in Louisiana, all for what he's doing in Minnesota by assassinating innocent American citizens. They see it. And in those that they murdered, people saw themselves. And people said, we're going out there and peacefully protesting. And we did not give him what he wanted. We didn't have people assaulting these officers. We had them filming these officers. So instead of them having fights and videos of fights with officers, they saw these officers being the animals, the thugs, the pigs, the creeps, the evil ones, the killers that they were. America saw the killers in their full glory. The cowards, as Swalwell and others, Moulton and others would call them. The cowards in the street that the first jump, they use a gun. The killers. Donald Trump's secret police. Donald Trump's killers. And now he's retreating because he knows that if he keeps at this level, what's going to happen. But Stephen Miller is still in his ear, folks. Stephen Miller is still in his ear. And we better remember that. The pressure must continue. In fact, the pressure must grow.
All of our countries' problems.
Yes, the pressure must grow. We can't stop. We cannot stop. Hi, Lynette. How you doing? La preciosa Lynette is in the house. Leslie Garrett, Vicky, Elizabeth. Hey, Elizabeth Rabin, la profesora de Caracas, Venezuela. ¿Cómo estás, mi profesora favorita? Tenemos que hacer otra entrevista para el Substack. All right, let's see who else we have here in the house. Val, welcome aboard. Anybody that I missed, just put your name and, Michelle Blessing, your name, and I'll call you out. Anyway, Michael Rudden gave me a video, and it seems like one that is apropos, one that is just right for this scenario here. So why don't we go ahead and do it? I hope it doesn't have the music, Rudden. Let's go ahead and do that right this minute. Para ver ahora mismo. Bam. Here you go. Come on, let's do it.
Murder a U.S. citizen in broad daylight in front of dozens of people filming it and still lie about it? Imagine what they're doing to immigrants when no one's watching. Imagine what the fuck is in those Epstein files. If they'll murder a U.S. citizen in broad daylight in front of dozens of people filming it and still lie about it? Imagine what they're doing to immigrants when no one's watching.
Oh, that is profound. That is, in fact, profound. Because imagine if they can do this in daylight. Well, there are videos out. There are videos out to show what they're doing in broad daylight. Joan says, my cousin is a MAGA and he is so far down the rabbit hole, he actually texted me taunts about the murder. What? You know what? I was hoping that he was going to be able to stop. I guess he's lost. Yes, he's lost. I mean, look, there are a lot of people. Remember, I said I talk to MAGA folks as well. I will try. A lot of people get mad at me for doing that, but I will continue to try. But you know what? These people make my day. I want you to listen to this short interview here, because it shows you that some of these people do have empathy. Some of them do have a bit of morals. I mean, I can't see anybody with morals voting for Trump, but let's say they've been had. I want you to listen to this. We're reading the tea leaves and we can see exactly why Donald Trump is starting to kind of soften. I don't say change. Stephen Miller is still in charge, but soften what he's going to do to protesters and videographers. And that's why he's sort of cooling. Listen to this. Listen to some of Trump's supporters and what they think about him and what he's doing right now. And you'll see what he really has to fight with and recover by November to give his party a fighting chance.
What would be your message to him?
Well, he needs to get his act together, and our representatives here in Iowa need to stop following his lead. I'm not voting Republican again.
Did you ever vote for him?
First time around, and he did a good job, but then he got stupid.
What does that mean?
It means that he just changed, and it's all about him. He thinks he's God, and he's going to take over the world.
What do you make of what's happening in Minnesota?
Well, I'm not all for these protests no matter for what, but you got to quit shooting people.
Are you somebody that's voted for Trump in the past?
Yeah, I voted for him 3 times. So.
And what do you think of the ICE efforts in Minneapolis and other places in the country?
I think that, we're a nation of laws, and the laws are there to be enforced. There was deportations under Obama as well. And so it's something that happens in a country. And so, I mean, the rules are there. They need to be enforced, but can't be shooting people in the street either.
He had talked about mass deportations, immigration, crackdowns. Is that something you wanted at one point?
Not like they're doing.
Not like this.
Not like this. This is horrible. Just horrible. I'm sick to my stomach.
Let's be clear here. America has a short memory. America doesn't remember things. After a couple of months, they forget about Rene Good. They'll forget about Alex Preti. Let's not allow that. The pressure has got to be kept up. We have to continue to we have to continue to point out what the damage is and what the damage was, and that what the damage is that is continuing with what this president has done. Because again, America has a short attention span. And, 8 or 9 months before an election is a hell of a lot of time. It's a hell of a lot of time for this president who controls a lot of the media right now, a derelict establishment Democratic Party, and a media that is not centered around the people, but centered around the corporatocracy. So I always say, you got to make sure and keep independent media funded, guys, because we have a lot of work to do to ensure that this guy doesn't once again snow people into giving his party a slim win. All right, folks. This other video is one that I did this morning. It's an important soliloquy that I did this morning, and I cleaned it up a lot to make it shorter. But it's very important, and if by all means, please share this and share this and share this. I'm going to have the blog written likely tonight, and I'll go out as a newsletter tonight. But this is a very important topic, and I want you guys to share it and share it and share it and share it. Here we go, and then we'll get busy como ahorita mismo right now. Right now, we are sitting on top of a 30-something trillion dollar debt. I want you guys to just hold on to that number. Let's call it about $38 trillion debt when you add all the debt that the United States have written in paper to other people to hold. All right? Call it $38 trillion. We are now paying. Please, and folks, listen to me and please follow me here. We are paying approximately $1 trillion a year to service that debt. In other words, and listen well, every time we pay our taxes every year, now our federal income taxes every year, the first $1 trillion has to go to pay on the bonds that are borrowed because of our debt. Hear that? $1 trillion every year, your money that's collected every year goes to pay these bonds. Now, who owns these bonds? China owns about $759 billion because, again, they've been selling it off, which is affecting the dollar. Japan owns about $1 trillion of it. The European Union countries own several trillion of it as well. But I mean, that is where the bond is. But here in the United States, a lot of rich people own these bonds. Okay. In other words, they loan the government money so that the government can continue to function. But why do they have to loan us this money? Let me digress a slight period here. Back the last time we had a balanced budget was under Bill Clinton. And, we had debt, but we had a surplus. In other words, on that particular time when Clinton raised taxes and pointed out that the Republicans pointed out that the economy would crash because he raised taxes, and a lot of that taxes raised on the rich. And when he did that, he got 0 Republican votes to do that. 0 Republicans vote to do that. But what happened under the Clinton administration? Every time we talk about economic success and how the job creation and the economic activity, everybody likes to call out the name Reagan. And I wrote this in my book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. Under Reagan, 16 million jobs got created. Sound like a lot. But under Clinton, both of them had 2 terms. Remember that? Both of them had 2 terms. And Clinton had to come, like every Democrat has to come over the last 50, 60 years, and clean up the mess of the previous Republican. Every single time. Obama had to clean up Bush's mess. Clinton had to clean up the Reagan-Bush mess. Biden had to clean up the Trump mess. And God knows what's going to happen now, but we're going to get there. Now, Clinton had a balanced budget. He had a surplus. That surplus could have been used to start dropping the debt. Remember, the debt is the total amount of money you owe. The deficit is how much you're spending over the amount of money you're collecting. So your deficit adds to the debt every year. And if you're not bringing the debt down, that continues to rise every time. The debt continues to rise. Under Clinton again, we had a surplus. We could start to reduce the debt. But then came Bush. And as Republicans always do, fiscal irresponsibility. They cut taxes on the rich as usual, and then ballooned the budget deficit again with illegal wars, with a drug program that was not paid for, a whole lot of stuff. But I want you to understand this. When we provided that debt, in other words, when Bush came in and destroyed what was done under the Clinton administration for a balanced budget, which means we were not adding any more money to the debt. Here comes Bush 1, Bush 2, added trillions of dollars for an Iraq war, adding trillions of dollars for a drug program that wasn't paid for, that should have been paid for, added trillions of dollars in all these other features. Likewise did Trump when he came into office, not taxing the wealthy. Now, here is the sad thing about this. You give these big tax breaks to the wealthy folk, right? And in giving those tax breaks to the wealthy folks, remember now, you create budget deficits. The budget deficits add to the debt. What is the debt? The debt is what you borrowed from others, right? Guess who has the money to loan us after we've given back the money to the wealthy people in the form of tax breaks, tax cuts, and everything else? The wealthy. So we go ahead and give tax breaks to the wealthy. Then the wealthy come to us and say, hey, I will buy the bonds to cover the deficit, to cover the debt. And those bonds keep adding up over and over and over again till it reaches $30-something trillion, which is where we're at right now. So we are paying these guys every year, these wealthy people and foreign countries, we are paying them $1 trillion every year. That is larger than our military budget, which shouldn't be as large as it is anyway, $850 billion or so. It is larger than many of our healthcare programs and everything else. Imagine if we had simply continued the path that the Democrats laid out. And again, I'm not sanctifying Democrats because there are a lot of problems here as well. But imagine if the status quo was the last balanced budget. We would not be paying $1 trillion in interest rates. In fact, what would have happened is we would have continued a declining budget, a declining debt, because as these bonds matured, we would not have had to purchase more bonds. They're matured, they're paid off because we had a surplus to start paying these bonds off. But that's not what we did. Now, telling you all of this, I want to bring that into what we're doing with things like ICE, etc., and spending this money here. We have this huge debt. We are going around the world not making friends, but raising hell. As you saw what Donald Trump did at Davos. Donald Trump went there and tell these European Union folks that we don't need you guys. You guys are dependent. Notwithstanding that these guys are owners of our debt as well. He goes over and to Denmark, and I mean he simply makes a mess out of things. And here comes the Canadian Prime Minister, who is now the moral leader. I am telling you, the moral leader of this capitalist structure now. Not that I am for the capitalist structure, but I'm just saying in the way things work right now, he has taken over the pseudo-moral position of what the United States used to have, etc. And pointed out that while the rest of the world does not have the military power of the United States, what they have collectively is much more than the United States, who is just 4.5 or so percent of the population. That's all we are. 4% of the population, but have controlled the economic movement of money by us having standardized on the dollar over the last many years, so 80 years or so. And in the process pointing out that because the United States have been now using the dollar not as a neutral arbiter of a financial system, which means there should be no real politics associated with the dollar, since they have used it as a stoggle. In other words, they look at Russia and says, we are going to go ahead and take your money because you have to use SWIFT to get onto it. Sorry, we are going to control it. Any country that they say they want to sanction, because the rest of the world has to use this thing called SWIFT, SWIFT, to move around their monies, to have exchanges. And anybody that goes back against the United States, they simply pay a penalty for for SWIFT or whatever, or being able to move their money around. America has used its dollar as a cudgel. But here's the kicker now, baby. We are $38 trillion or so in debt. A lot of people we owe money to. And they're asking themselves, by the way, what is the dollar backed by? The dollar is backed by the faith that we have in the United States. Well, having a country that is unstable, vis-a-vis ICE running around, killing people, ICE running around, destabilizing different cities, affecting their economy, the different cities' economy, etc. That dollar doesn't seem so strong anymore because the country that is guaranteeing that dollar is in turmoil. It's in turmoil. They're having issues with voters. They're having issues with voter. Why would you consider using the dollar, which is not based on anything other than the faith in the country that runs it, a country with a huge military, a country with wait a minute, it doesn't have a lot of manufacturing anymore. It doesn't have a lot of any of these things anymore because our capitalist system has exported the value that the United States had as a country to the rest of the world. Its manufacturing base is now China, Vietnam, and these other places. Its sources of raw material, the titanium and all these rare earths that are all over the world, including here in the United States, our mines can't get up to speed to manufacture any of these things. So what gave the faith in the United States dollar was its economic prowess, which it has allowed its own capitalist system to outsource to make a few profits for the few. That's what has happened. And again, for all that I'm saying here, don't take my word for it. So what do? We go ahead and we say, oh my God, we have to start doing what countries without resources, and when I say resources, I mean readily available, exploitable resources. We have to go take it. We got to become imperial again, vis-a-vis what the British did to India, the Caribbean, and elsewhere. You don't have the resources at home. You have a strong military. You take it. Imperialism. But the world of 2026 is not the world of 1800s, 1700s anymore. It's not. We have a world of intellect now. The Brazilians are smart. The Russians are smart. The Chinese are smart. The Indians are smart. And I mean that the Indians from the country of India. All of these people now have agency in their economic system. They have agency in what they want to do. And they don't necessarily decide to allow a country with 4.5% of the population to determine the outcomes of the rest of the 95-point-something% of the world. So they created a lot of external and additional exchanges that are now coming online. Everybody talks about BRICS, right? Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, China. That monetary exchange that they have, that is up and running. It's running, okay? But what they don't talk about is CIPS, the Chinese exchange, where people are now buying and selling oil, not in petrodollars, but in yuan and other currencies. Bottom line from this discourse that I'm trying to tell you, while we are concerned about ICE and what's happening in Minneapolis, and all the shenanigans that Donald Trump is putting out there, and the soft invasion of Venezuela. Notice what he did. He took out Maduro for play, but Delcy, who's running Venezuela, continued using the Chavista methodology. He's not particularly messing with her. Read the Venezuelan papers and see what they are doing. Because you know what Venezuela did that America didn't quite realize? They were moving their minerals, not through SWIFT, but through crypto. Not through SWIFT, but through alliances with BRICS. Not through SWIFT, but through CIPS with the UN and all these other features, putting us on the sidelines. So while we are worried about ridiculous stuff about getting these foreigners out of the United States, which isn't the issue. The issue is really to get these foreigners into concentration camps so that we can make some money for the prison industrial complex. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Because the farmers are making the big farmers are making deals so that ICE will turn the other eye and not mess with when they have to cosechar their fields, when they have to harvest their fields. We are being played. All of us are being played. And MAGA folks, you're the ones that are being screwed the biggest, the worst. You are being screwed the worst, because at least when we discuss these issues with progressives, etc., they understand what's going on. But they are dependent on you to be the dummies that keep them in power so that this can continue. The dummies that keep them in power so that this reality can continue. The bottom line is we are heading into dire straits that none of us really understand quite yet. And it starts with as what Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke about, the decoupling from the United States. Right now, all these, we are a debtor country to all those folks that we have been maligning. We are a debtor country to all these countries we have been maligning. And how do we get out of this? When you have folks that are not concerned, they don't care about America. They care about the next buck they can make tomorrow. They don't care about what it actually means to the existentialism of America, the existence of America. And and again, one of the reasons that is the case is that this story, the pressure that the dollar is under right now, that China has started selling off in a very orderly form our bonds. And you know how it's not that they're selling off our bonds in as much as they're letting our bonds expired and not repurchasing them at the rate we need. So the bond rates are going, the rates are going up right now because we have to pay more to borrow. And who are we paying again? The wealthy, because they're the ones not paying the taxes that are due them. And we just sit back and accept it. And MAGA, let me tell you, you allowed Trump to screw all of us, the country. Patriotism, you're not patriots. You're not patriots. You're working on the demise of the country. You are working on the demise on the country. Do some study. And those of you that are listening to me that are willing to actually do a little bit of study beyond the pale, you have to dig into your search engines to find the stories around the world. That's going to tell you a lot of what I just explained to you. But go scan and find out what is the state of the United States dollar. What is the state of SWIFT, SWIFT? Look up as well BRICS and countries joining BRICS and exchange. Study look up as well, how was Venezuela able, even as the United States put maximal pressure on it, at least gave a semblance of an economy as they froze us. Let me tell you, the United States did the same thing in Panama. They held back the dollar on Panama. And we used pieces of paper during the Bush 1 years. We created our own money. The problem in Panama is that the Balboa was based on the dollar. We created all kind of alternative bartering fashions to survive. When you screw a country, they find ways in which to survive. And that's what the rest of the world has been doing. We thought Russia would collapse by now, didn't we? With all the sanctions, but all it did was make them stronger because the things that we needed to do, we didn't. We thought that all these other countries that we don't like and want them to do things would collapse. We got a lot to learn. And folks, until we as individuals learn it, the mainstream media ain't going to tell you any of this. They're not going to tell you the problems that we are having with the dollar. They're not going to tell you the problems that we're having. CNBC has not mentioned this. CNBC has our premier channel on economics, on finances, has not mentioned the cataclysm that we are about to or potentially going to as they snow us all. As they snow us all, the cataclysm. Patrick Magner says, everything Trump is doing is what you would expect from someone trying to crash the economy and the dollar. Exactly. Michael Rudden says, the Hill, the U.S. loses an estimated $1 trillion in unpaid taxes every year. Cutting Internal Revenue Service staff will only make this worse. While proponents of downsizing the IRS argue that reducing bureaucracy saves taxpayer dollars, the reality is what's weakening the IRS will embolden tax cheats and widen the gap and shift the burden. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. It's shameful. It's shameful. It's shameful. Let's see what else I got up here. Think Michael Lita Bearcat says, has America overpaid historically? Overpaid what? You can't overpay. You can't overpay. A government can't really overpay, right? All right. What else have we got here? Paul Fleming says, remember when Trump was okay with guns at a protest, as long as there was his support? I mean, all you have to do is remember Rittenhouse, right? Paul, you remember he went to the AR-15, I think it was, and he killed 2 protesters. And then and nobody said he shouldn't have the gun. In fact, he passed the cops with the gun. He passed the damn cops with the gun. Nobody said a thing. This brother got his life smoked, not even for touching the gun. But that's welcome to America, the land of the free, if you fit the right profile. Oh, man, I tell you, I just couldn't believe it. A Stadium says Black Panthers. Well, you remember, I think the Black Panthers is what got regulations in California, Corroborate that for me, guys. But I think when California had these gun laws that were pretty lenient, as soon as the Black Panthers, if I recall the story correctly, as soon as they started getting their guns, we had to curb it for everybody, man. It's like when Daniel Carroll put her toes into the pool and they drained the pool, right? I just have to laugh at these issues, man. There are just certain things that you have to laugh about. All right, Egberto, please read out which one? Repeating one since you asked what else to read. Kyle Kulinski. Trump doesn't know what the F he's doing. It's either that or the argument about him being some sort of foreign agent who's purposefully trying to destroy the country. That can be true because the way he's acting right now. I don't know the difference. Citation 7 minutes into the look. I am pretty sure. Trump doesn't give a damn. He just doesn't care at all. He just doesn't care. Okay, let's see what we got in the chat here on Substack. Lynette says, my dad loves new technology. We were the first ones to have a computer when I grew up. It only read BASIC. He taught himself. Hey, but I remember my first computer was a Radio Shack color computer. And after I got that computer, I think it used a 6502 chip. I turned into a geek. Well, I was always a geek. But I remember busting that thing open and going on to the market to buy different parts for it. Because as soon as that computer came on, the tinkerers were in full vogue. And that was a computer that you actually you connected it to your TV screen, right? It was the color computer. You stick it to the computer screen and you do your stuff on it. Those were the days, man. I remember how happy I was in those days. All right, what else have we got here? Michael said, Egberto, if you have time for another screen, Rittenhouse, how long is this one? I hope it's not too long. But I don't have any more videos, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's see right now. And by the way, if anybody have questions, throw it in the chat or give us a call. But let me play this one, and then we'll take it on the other side. Para ver qué vamos a hacer aquí mismo.
We may have reached a point where the Second Amendment enthusiasts might just be willing to give up that constitutional right in order to not have to admit they made a mistake in getting this regime back into power. Like, I always knew that was probably a possibility. That was something we might see down the road. I never would have thought it would happen this fast. Because bear in mind, these are the same people that called this guy a hero, said he was 100% justified in showing up armed like this and ending people's lives. But then a man with a legal permit to carry in the streets of Minneapolis is gunned down without even brandishing that weapon, because we've seen the video from at least 3 different angles already. He never pulls one out. He approaches them with a phone in his hand, and he's legally permitted to have that particular weapon on his body. And what does he get because of it? Slaughtered in the streets. Killed in front of everybody in broad daylight. And now we are seeing the same people who have acted as though we have to make sure we keep our you-know-whats so we aren't taken over by a tyrannical government. They're suddenly acting as though he was in the wrong for having one on himself because we're allowed to legally. Now those same people are trying to bend over backwards to make it so he was in the wrong for having one on him. You know what we're legally allowed to do. Y'all are actually going to give up your Second Amendment rights over all this. I see it happening. It's coming. It's crazy to watch it happening in real time, though. I thought that might be one thing that could keep you guys from allowing this to happen, but the writing's been on the wall for a minute, and here you are. You're going to, You're going to give that up just so you don't have to admit that we shouldn't have these people in power.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, folks, telephone number 281-823-7747. Repeating again, 281-823-7747. Anybody want to call in? Lynette says, MAGA like to own the libs if they have to give up their guns to own them. I don't think they'll do that. Una vez más, amor. Thank you for that, El Denube. He put it in the chat for me, so let me go ahead and copy that and put it in the other chat. Here's the number to call in. I'd love to hear from somebody. Egberto at 281-823-7747. I am lonely because nobody is calling me. All right. 281-823-7747. I have other topics, but they're long and I don't have enough time. PJ Schuster is from Philly. Welcome aboard from Philly, PJ Schuster. Who else is in that gave me a city-state that I didn't cover? That was my dad, Egberto. Who was? Let's see. Reuters on streaming, a BBC, perhaps NHK, Japan. I don't know what you're saying there at Stadium. Maybe I need to read the previous message. Okay. One more time, 281-823-7747. Paul Fleming says, let's see. My first computer was a 280. Oh, let me tell you, the 286 was one of the big. Look at that computer. I remember those days. That was the worst CPU. I'm not talking about from the point of view of the person who has the PC. From a programming standpoint, that was the worst PC. And let me tell you why. A little technical thing for you. They made a mistake when they designed that chip. Let me put that on the side screen. You know that, Michael? They made a mistake when they designed that particular, the 286. And let me tell you what it was. For backward compatibility, the 286, the 386, all of them started up in 8086 mode. What that means, it started up like a standard 16-bit computer, and it had the 8086 had a 16-bit bus, 8088 the 8-bit bus. Started up like a simple computer, and then when the operating system loaded, meaning Windows, Windows converted it into it switched from 8086 mode into what's called protected mode, where it could protect memory and it could use more than one megabyte of information. That's all the CPU could use then. 1 megabyte, the 8088, 1 megabyte, nothing more. But to run older programs, the CPU had to switch back to 8088 mode while it was running DOS, and then switch back into protected mode to run Windows. Guess what these clowns forgot to do? They forgot to find a way to go back to 8088 mode without a reset. So every time you had to go to 8088 mode, you had to have a reset of the chip in your programming, the reset of the chip. And when you resetted that chip, you had a completely different stack. It was a mess. Then came the 386, and the 386 solved that problem. The 286 was a complete dog to program, but the 386 was great. And then all the Pentiums and all of that came on top of that guy. All right, just shows that was just me nerding out, folks. Just me nerding out because we finished early, and I'm still waiting for a call. 281-823-7747. Okay, seems like I'm not going to get one, so let me continue reading continue reading our piece here. I know someone that has a 286 and a 386. She is waiting for them to make a No, they won't make a comeback at Stadion. What's going to happen is they're going to become relics and probably worth a lot of money. That's probably in another 50 years, though. But it will be a relic if it's still running. That was very frustrating, Joan. It was so hard. It was so hard to program that computer. I never forgot the problems that I had because, you write software for the 8088 and for MS-DOS and Windows, and you had to coexist. My phone has been acting up today, so I'm not calling. You see? Well, no problem. No problem. Okay. Let me expand finish up a little bit about the last piece that I did then. Our money is not based on, Bruce says mine was a 6 Masonite wheel, a battery, and some lights. Then the general automation. I hear you, dude. I hear you. But anyway, let me just say this about the dollar. The dollar is not based on anything other than the faith of the United States. There is something that's happening that nobody is talking about around the world. Okay? And what's happening is China is cornering both the silver and gold market. And they are accumulating gold and silver. Goldman Sachs has also cornered the silver market. And you have to ask yourself, what exactly is happening there? Now, let me tell you from a personal point of view. When I look at the financial system, I believe we need to destroy a system that where gold and silver, and in my point specifically gold, and silver are somehow valuable in the way they are valuable for a system. Because let me give an example. Let's take a tropical country that has no metals of value, no gold, no silver, none of that, right? But they are very, very fertile, and they can produce orders of magnitude of bananas and coffee and coconuts and all these things. That country can produce an infinite supply of that, right? So we have a country that has gold and a country that has all those other things that are useful. Now, you can't eat gold. Gold doesn't make you healthy. Now, gold is used on certain computer chips, etc. But as to say it having mass appeal for people, I don't see it. Now, that country that can create an unlimited supply of coconuts and bananas and pineapples and apples and all of that, I would think that those natural resources of that country would make them a rich country. Well, if we take a look at Venezuela, they have it all. They have the metals, they have the natural resources like oil and carbon and other things. And then they have the climate to grow anything. They have the climate to grow anything, right? So Venezuela and other countries on that tropical region with all these resources are really, for those who believe in God, God's gift to the planet. But because the economic system that we are under did not originate in these areas, what do you think? We have different value sets. So the United States can have a dollar that is not based particularly on anything. Earlier in the piece that I told you guys about, I can understand when we were a manufacturing juggernaut. Well, we are still a farming juggernaut, but look at how we treat farmers, right? Farmers are the lifeblood of this country, and look at how we treat them. Look at how we treat teachers. Lifeblood of this country, look at how we treat teachers. We have an economic system that does not assign value to that which is valuable and gives value to those who provide nothing. The stockbroker, the banker, investment banker, all these guys that are super wealthy and the ones that control the flow of money and the flow of resources, they don't contribute anything to society. And they're the ones that make the money. And the people and the countries that produce are the ones that are wanting. Yes, you're absolutely right, Joan. Egberto, the whole economic system is going to fail, and we're going to feel it the worst. I hope when it's rebranded, that it finally adds value to those that are valuable and remove value from those that, again, capitalism is an extractive thing. It's a theft, right? Everything that it does comes from theft. Legal theft, because that's how it was written, but theft nonetheless. All right, we are at 57. Last 10 minutes, I just kind of rambled a bit because I was done with my videos and my pieces. So, since I'm not going to get any calls, 281-823-7747, I'll go ahead and start closing. I want to thank all of you for listening. When I'm done writing the blog for the Capitol speech that I gave, please share that. That's very important for people to know. And make sure that you put it on Twitter, your Substack, and everywhere else. Lawyers write the laws. You're right about that, Astedian. Lawyers write the laws. But, they don't profit from the laws that they write. That's the thing, right? Lynette says, I can't wait to start my garden. I'm cold. Garden, I am cold, so I dream of warmer days. I hear you. Astedian says, you are rambler. By the way, yes, I know. Today I did ramble. Patrick says, paradox of plenty. Countries that have resources we want develop slower than ones that don't. It shows how corporations conduct business. Exactly. I think, you know what? There's a name for that. The paradox of plenty and the curse of something. You're right about that. I remember that. Anyway, folks, I got to get out of here. I want to thank you all for your eyeballs. I want to thank you all for your ears. Please remember to share what we're talking about here. Please remember to support independent media. Choose the 10 or 20 or 30 that you are going to support and give small dollars to them all. That's what, as an independent person, that's what I do as well, right? I have about 10 or 15 rags that I support. Love you too, Lynette. You know that. I have a few rags that I support diligently because that is the only way we are going to make it, if we all support independent media. Again, if we support it. So if you want to support this program, which we do need and would be forever thankful for, please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter is where you can actually join. I am putting that in there as well in both chats. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. If you are on Substack, just hit the subscribe button and please consider becoming a paid subscriber. You will make a difference. Remember, you get to read all my books for free, and I have a new book coming out shortly. And I even think I've changed the name several times, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, and thank you for your support, Joe. I know that. Anyway, support the program. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You want to email me directly, info@politicsdoneright.com. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willis, Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate